from, that's fine. But whenever you fall, Shaitan has got you into a deep trap, and it's going to take a long time to climb out of that hole, and you might not ever be able to climb out of it. So be careful from those things and don't start with them, because it will lead to something that's greater and it's more serious. I guess that's all that I have right now. If anyone has any questions, inshallah ta'ala, please feel free to ask.
If anyone has any questions, inshallah we'll take those now. And if anyone wants to write up a question, they don't want to say it, you can write it up and say it, inshallah. For the sisters, if you can come as close to the aisle as possible if you want to ask a question. Or maybe not. Honest, do we have another mic?
We can hear you, sister. Go ahead. What's your question?
Okay, just I want a question. Now girls or boys, they say when they go to college or they are in the school, they would ask if a boy or a friend they have, like friends, just a friend. He's my friend or she's my friend. Is that okay in Islam or not? Just to this side. I'm not going to say to give fatwa, but why you talk about halal and haram and, I mean nowadays. Thank you.
While the mic comes up, I'll answer. Has anyone ever heard a song about just being friends? It's a little too old school for them. It doesn't, there's no such thing as just being friends, sister. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created, that's my take on it.
Let me put it to you this way. Man, I love being vulgar. I can't be vulgar now. So many parents of these things. I want to be vulgar about this, but I can't say it this way. So I'm going to say it.
Sisters, stop being vulgar.
Do it? Okay. Sisters, listen to me very closely. As long as a man has something between his legs, he does not just want to be friends. Not in the No, I'm serious. As long as he's a male, he's a man, he does not want to be just friends, don't deceive yourself with those things, honestly.
Just to give you an example, a friend of mine told me, he said the first time he got his license, he went out and he got pulled over as he was driving on down the highway. This is just to build on what he said. Now he got pulled over by a cop, and the cop happened to be female. So everyone was like, oh man, he must have been scared, man, he didn't have insurance, he didn't have nothing. Fine, that's all.
All I was worried about.
Yeah, that's how I was just... That's it, story's over. Are you sure? The law saved me. Yeah, so... It's not... You guys are going to have to take it. It's not working.
Recent law. It works with me. If anyone wants to start a path, I'll be waiting in the lounge.
That's it, man. It's done. Next question. He's trying to hit on the cop. She's like, give me your license and registration, sir. He was like, yeah, can I get your name and number too? Because I was like, excuse me? So that's it. Anytime you find a man, that's the first thing that he's going to be thinking about, especially when you're in high school and you live at the beach. I mean, that's just what's going to be happening. If you put yourself in a situation where you are exposed to certain things, when you're in danger, and this is a very important issue that I think sisters need to realize. You know, one of the main questions that I was asked, I used to have a website where I used to talk about legal issues in Islam and things like that. And that's my specialty is Islamic law. So people would write to me and they would ask about rape and date rape and things like this. You know, in Islamic law, not to say that there's not such a thing as date rape, but women are not exonerated from any responsibility. We don't put all of the blame on the men and no blame goes on the women. The blame goes equally when any two people put themselves into a situation in which they can both be used. So men are raped, even though men don't want to admit it, and women are raped at times as well. Why? Because they put themselves into situations, into friendships, which then become more than friendships, where they're visiting each other, they're sitting with each other, and then once you get to drugs and the music, certain other things happen as well. So it's important that we keep ourselves away from any type of thing that's going to put us in a situation where we're not going to be able to deal with what we're doing. The Prophet ﷺ said, "La yanbaghi li ahadikum an yuhina nafsahu." It's not befitting that any of you dishonors himself, disgraces himself. People said, how do we do that? He said, the person puts himself in a situation that they cannot handle. So it's very important to be careful of who your relationships are with and how you relate to them. You don't want to be, you might have friends in school and things like that. You might know people in school, but you don't want to let those relationships, or should I say the communication between you, get to the point where you're taking things off of Facebook and you're just looking into each other's face.
Brother has a question over here.
Brother has a question over here. I'll repeat it. Assalamu alaikum. This is mostly directed towards the Shaykh Wisam.
So you covered the...
You covered the... I am your conscience. The really bad forms of music, popular music.
I was wondering what the attitude is towards music that is either neutral or Islamic. You know, like, of course, we have like sad music outside. I've heard like men saying as well. I don't know what's counted as music or what the attitude is towards them. And then there's also regular music that's, for example, for charity. You know, there was songs for Haiti, raise charity for Haiti. There was the World Cup song that was like nationalism. Back home, I listen to a lot of like Arabic music. There's a lot of songs about how you should love your country and stuff like that. So music that's neutral or Islamic, what's the attitude?
Okay, music that's neutral or Islamic, things that are for charity events, Sami Yusuf, the Islamic alternatives, things like that. Has to repeat about this question, Shaykh Wisam.
I've probably spoken about this concept of music about 7 times in the last 2 years. And I want to be very clear. I've answered your question many times, but I've always thought to say what I'm about to say, so please hear me out. The average person, 99.9% of Muslims, don't fall into your category. So I'm going to restate my sentence. Everyone in this room may have some CDs of Islamic alternative music or even the concept. The majority of people, friends, when you don't have your iPod, when you turn on the radio, you have everything that I did point out. By answering the question directly, I'm going to open a door and be like, yeah, see, at the end he said those things were okay. Shaitan will tell you to listen to Ya Mustafa, Ya Mustafa, and literally tomorrow, it won't be Mustafa you listen to. Number 2, and am I going to need backing up here from Messiah? Quite frankly, it's better if you listen to Fahisha than something nationalistic. If I'm correct. It's better that you listen to, now in comparison, these are both horrible things, but nationalism in our religion has been propagated since about the First World War through music. Our deen has always been about propagating our oneness. And these songs genuinely, to Allah al-Azim, I met Junaid Jamshed and there was a song written in Pakistan a while ago. What was it? That was it? Junaid. Literally, this was the song of a generation about how Pakistan was so wonderful. We have Film. She sang some beautiful couplets about the country. These things genuinely perverted people and pushed them in a specific way. So I'll actually tell you, your question, it's debatable, it's a decent thing. but I have met very few people who have gone from no music to a little bit of Islamic music to staying there. Everyone who goes this way, it's linear. So they go from no music to, yeah, let me get a little bit of this, to literally. Then within Islamic music, there's instrumental, no instrumental. Who's the brother? Bengali brother? He doesn't sing with any instrument? That's him? Kamaluddin? He's a really nice guy. And he, in his own words, he said, after you listen to me, I'm afraid about what I do, because eventually people, they go from there, and then from there to there. So that is my answer. But please know that the mass, I have no Islamic song CDs. I don't. But back in the day, I had plenty of CDs from other things. So all I can say is, the mass people in here, and let's leave hip-hop for a second. If you don't have hip-hop CDs or pop culture CDs, Amus and Chachis in the back, we all have Bollywood remix. For real. And if I started quoting those things, at least Lil Wayne and at least Rihanna will say, lose yourself in the music. Bollywood music will flat out say the names and words of the, like they'll say Hai Rama, they'll say the names of the gods by saying, it's the equivalent of saying Ya Allah, but in the name of their statue. Big deal? Yeah, very big deal. So that's my take.
Let me add to that two things. Number one is that, what you mentioned is that I personally have witnessed, by the way, that people will start with this and then they'll end up going all the way. It's funny because you guys watched the Jon Stewart drama, right?
Yeah.
You did, right? Who did they have that was singing there? No, it wasn't Yusuf Islam. It was Yusuf. And I'll leave it at that. And who was Yusuf singing with? Ozzy Osbourne. Alright, things go out of hand whenever you open the door for these things. Okay? He doesn't call himself Yusuf Islam anymore, unfortunately. Yeah, well, I mean, look, I know Yusuf Islam, I know him personally. We used to live in Amarat. When I was studying in the UAE, he lived literally 5 minutes from my house. I don't know if he still lives there, but the point is that things open the door. Alright? So first you address it from the fiqhi perspective. I know we hate to listen from the fiqhi perspective because the fiqhi perspective sometimes is like, oh man, but from the fiqhi perspective, it's very plain. When Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam used to hear a bell ringing, what would he do? Shaykh, what would he do? Say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. You know what else he would do? This is from our deen. This is from our Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So from a fiqhi issue, we sort out the words, the lyrics from the instruments. Are the instruments themselves haram, or are the lyrics what make the song halal or haram? From a fiqhi perspective, the instruments themselves, from the consensus of the formula, are haram. I understand that Ibn Hazm, rahimahullah, said that music is halal, that there's no authentic evidence to make music haram. But you know what? Ibn Hazm also said you can marry 9 wives, and that if you don't pray your salah in the masjid, your salah is invalid. So if you want to follow him on music, you follow him on salah too, and be in the masjid for Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, and Isha, or else your salah doesn't count, so you're not a Muslim in the first place. So that's the point, is that we shouldn't be selective with our fatawa. Alright? The last thing, and this is the point of Imam Taymiyyah also, if you, and this was the poem, you gotta listen to the end of music by Kamal Makki. Beautiful, amazing. YouTube it whenever you get home. How can you possibly still appreciate the Quran if you're constantly listening to these things? You're going to lose appreciation for the Quran. Whether it's, let's say that it's even 0.0001%, you're going to lose some sort of appreciation for the Quran. There's no way you're going to have full appreciation of the Quran. So what I'm saying, if you see someone who's half and half with Islam and who's making that transition, I'm not saying to go to a person who's struggling with a girlfriend, who's struggling with a lot of other things. Hey brother, Islam Yusuf is haram. But we have to be honest with ourselves, and we have to study things for ourselves. We have to look at dalil, at evidence. Right? We can't just look for the easy fatwa and look for this, the escape all the time. But whenever someone's going through a transition, yes, we tolerate that person. We don't accept the sin, we accept that person. We say, alhamdulillah, that's good that you stopped listening to this and you stopped listening to that. But we don't go and say, hey, did you hear the latest, whatever song it was, and you should. We don't start giving them those CDs, but we tell them, alhamdulillah, that's good that you're making this stuff. And inshallah, they'll progress. I'm not saying don't be harsh on those things. We have to be relevant. But at the same time, if we keep lowering the standard, If it's where it's at right now, trust me, without a doubt, that the same nasheed artists are going to be making pure songs that have nothing to do with Islam, with full musical instruments. And you know what they're going to say? It's halal. Musical instruments are halal. We got that fatwa. Kulthum, by the way, and you guys can go and pound on your dads and your moms if they listen to Kulthum songs. Because Kulthum, do you know what Kulthum started off as? Anyone know? She was a reciter of Quran. Her father was a scholar, and she used to enter Quran competitions and recite Quran. May Allah forgive her and have mercy on her. She was a Muslim, but the point is, I'm just showing you, things go further than you expect them to go. I'm sorry I took your time with that. Jazakallah.
I just say that, like we say, that for all the white people here, that it all applies equally to hard rock and Megadeth and Led Zeppelin and stuff like that. A lot of rap music here, Bradford, kind of out of place. That's really a thing. You know, some Public Enemy, things like that. But I never hear that. There is a big punk and heavy metal influence in the community as well. A lot of people won't come out to events because they don't feel that the events are working up to that. So, you know, it all goes equally. I would say that what I've seen personally about people that engross themselves in the Islamic alternative, I've seen children that were on their way to memorize the entire Quran, and then their parents said, you know what, we need to give you a little time to yourself. So here's this tape. So they went from one tape to the next, and nowadays they've forgotten almost the entire Quran except the small surahs that they recite in the salah, and they listen to regular music. So, you know, it's a slippery slope. It's something that you definitely want to go down to. I personally take issue with some of the lyrics even. I mean, when you talk about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and say, you're the guy, I mean, that's really not the reason way, or the reasonable way to be talking about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Another thing, I'd just like to reiterate this, that many times people are performing artists, they're involved in these type of things, and people say, you guys aren't being open enough as imams and as sheikhs and accepting enough of these people in the community. And I would say that no, we should be accepting of every single person that says La ilaha illallah. Anyone that says La ilaha illallah doesn't commit any shirk, and they pray to our Qibla, then they can come to the masjid, they can pray, and they can be part of the community. I did tell one of my friends, though, who insisted on being more open, I said, look bro, I can only do so much. I can't be the brother's, concert performer. So don't look to the masjid as if it's the place where some of the things have to be promoted. The masjid is a place of sanctity and a place where we come to return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These papers are coming my way. So. The red one. There's a question here from, I'm guessing it's a sister. It says, what if you've done things with men that you're not proud of, and every time someone asks you, you don't feel worthy of them? Like you don't deserve them or they are bad. That's why they came my way. What advice would you give for someone who has changed? First of all, I'd like to mention that if you have repented, you have, and if you'll allow me, if a woman or a man has committed sins in the past, whether they've had impermissible, if they had, if they fornicated, they've had sex outside of marriage, and they've kept this hidden from everyone else, then we have to remember that the sins that we hide from creation, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves that we hide them, and that we don't admit them to other people. On the day of judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring each and every one of us to stand in front of Him. And He will place over us something that looks like a cannon. And then He will say, Ya abdi, laqad fa'alta kada wa kada fi yawmi kada wa kada. In this day, you did such and such thing at such and such time. And the only thing that you as a believer will be able to answer Him, the Lord of the worlds, the only thing you'll be able to say is, yes, my Lord, I know. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in His eternal graciousness and His endless mercy, will say to you, إِنِّي سَتَرْتُهَا عَلَيْكَ فِي الدُّنْيَا وَأَغْفِرُهَا لَكَ الْيَوْمَ. I kept it hidden from the people in the dunya, in the previous life, and I forgive you of that sin on this day. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant each and every one of us that this question applies to have our sins hidden from the people and to be forgiven on the Day of Judgment. Now, once you've repented, once you've turned your life around, do you need to tell people what you've done? If someone comes and he wants to ask your hand in marriage, do you need to feel below yourself or below him? No, you don't. Because even the scholars have mentioned that a person who has committed a sin, the sin of fornication, and then repented and hid it from the people, even if some of their family knew, but they had repented, they were no longer virgins as far as the physical act, but they had recaptured their virginity by repentance, then it is not obligatory for them to say or speak about their sins to their future suitor. That they can say, yes, I have not been in with anyone, meaning after my repentance. Because you've renewed your life. You've come back into the light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is a very important point to remember. Don't feel bad about yourself when someone comes to you, and don't feel below them. But thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for allowing you to leave off that which He did not like, and to gain His grace, and to gain His pleasure by doing that which He likes, doing that which pleases Him and pleases Him alone. You guys tell me, I'm here with you. Beautiful question.
I think this is a very important question. Usually whenever we do question and answer sessions, we get the same questions over and over again, but this is one that's at least the question in and of itself demonstrates a sense of sincerity that a person is trying to do what's right. And the question is, how do you lower your gaze and expect to find an Islamic partner at the same time? And how do you Islamically find a partner nowadays? It seems like everyone uses the friendship, in quotations, or going out but not doing anything haram, quotations also, right nowadays, okay? Look, the very first thing is that whenever you are pure and you hold and you restrain yourself, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant you someone. I know that especially sisters who try to keep their haya, their modesty, struggle with this in particular because, quite frankly, most sisters don't, so they're not competing with the other sisters. They're keeping themselves restrained and covered and so on and so forth. The best way to guarantee yourself a good spouse is to be good yourself. If you are pure yourself, watch what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you. You might have someone in front of you that you think is the best person in the world for you. And then something happens and you don't marry them, and you say, hey, I thought I played one and played that, and he was pure and I'm pure, or she was pure and I'm pure, what happened? Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you someone later on, it's like, oh, this is what it was, if you're patient, okay? And that also goes on the flip side, by the way. Most people try to act crazy, most guys especially, because let's face it, society is more forgiving towards guys than girls. Am I correct in that? Yes. I'm correct in that assessment, right? All the sisters would agree with that. Society is much more forgiving towards guys than girls. If a guy goes and does something and screws around, he can be forgiven, he can move on, things of that sort. If a girl does anything though,
and unfortunately not in just society, specifically in Muslim families.
Community in Muslim families.
Specifically in Muslim community.
Yeah. I mean, guys can get away with a lot of things, alright? Here's the thing. I've seen this happen many times. If you think that you're just going to screw around through college, through high school and college, already having in your mind, not sincere repentance, but whenever I get older, whenever time comes and I finish my degree and I do everything I'm supposed to do, I'm going to marry, the perfect Muslim who's going to be pure and all these types of things and nothing would have happened. Think again. I just got off the phone before the session tonight with a guy that I used to warn. I used to tell him, what you're doing is going to come back and it's going to get you. You're not going to get away with this. Who got married to someone, and he thought, this girl was the ideal Muslim, right? beautiful, wears hijab, she comes from a rich family, a good family, everything. And he said, bro, I just found out on my wife's Facebook, I went through her messages, she's been talking to a guy for 5 years, flirting with him. Because just like a tayyibun and a tayyibat, impure men are for impure women. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will get you back to that. Okay? So that's the very first thing. To prepare for an Islamic spouse, to have a good spouse, you yourself have to be pure and you yourself have to be chaste. Now, how do I find a wife and how do I find a spouse if we can't even, look around and those types of things if we're supposed to lower our gaze? Here's the thing. The way that you approach marriage in our society, and this is not Islamic, is it's looks first, then I'll find out what's behind the looks. Right? So I'll see if she's pretty enough where I can deal with it, then I'll go try to see if she's satisfactory in all of the other categories. Alright? Islamically, it's the complete opposite. I'll find out if she excels. And what are the 2 characteristics you should look for in marriage? إِذَا أَتَاكَ مَنْ تَرْضَوْنَ دِينَهُ وَخُلُقَهُ. If someone comes to you with good deen and khuluq, character, deen and character. It's not just deen, because some people, quite frankly, they practice many aspects of sunnah, but they have rotten characters. Okay? Deen and character. If you have those 2 things, then that's the person that you need to be married to. You look for deen and khuluq first. So you inquire about people based on their internal qualities, then you see if they're satisfactory in the external qualities. SubhanAllah, so that's what I'm trying to say. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam gives you the permission to look at someone that you're thinking about marrying. Okay? To the point that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam even, gave permission, and correct me anytime, because we have a scholar with us, so Sheikh Joe, please correct me anytime I make a mistake. He even permitted some of the Sahaba to go and to hide behind bushes and to try to see women. The hadith of Jabir radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Okay? But it's not that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was telling guys that you can hack into someone's webcam or you can go sneak in your girl's window that you're trying to look at, you're trying to see her when she's getting out of the shower. Alright? It means that, what's that? They'll be hiding in the hallways. He was saying to go look at their faces, what they exposed in public, but you don't have to lower your gaze, you can go look at her. Okay? So that's when it becomes permissible. But you don't go shopping first, and then try to see, she looks good. I'm going to try to see, if her deen is cut. And then, by the way, if you're already attracted to her, or if you're already attracted to him, and if the infatuation part has already took effect, they could be the worst people in deen, but you're going to be like, MashaAllah, they pray, and whenever they pray on time, and she said she reads Quran once a month, you'll make them to be super shaykh, or super shaykh. Because you've already gotten what you wanted to. She's such a good girl and so honest and like, dude, she's a gold digger. What are you talking about? But you won her, so you're gonna beautify those different things. Okay? So Islam tells you to go from the background. Inquire about people. Your greatest tool in finding a wife is, by the way, your mother. And if you have sisters, use your sisters. Sisters, using your brothers, using your fathers, whatever it is, trying to find out who the good people are in the community. And your reputation travels, your reputation gets out. Okay? You look for the deen aspects, then you take it from there. Then you want to meet the sister, then you want to look at her, you want to snatch a glance at her, that's fine in that regard. Okay? But it has to be done with that equation, with that sequence. Not vice versa. And by the way, talk to the imams in their communities. Talk to the people. There are matchmakers in every community if you want to do it the halal way. I'm not a big fan of Nasib.com or those types of things either, because those things have, quite frankly, become like dating websites, right? You'll have like a lady like that, that'll put a picture of herself with like a skirt on and stuff like that in her hair, and she's posing like this. And the description says, looking for a pious brother. MashaAllah. Looking for a pious brother. Okay. So I'm not a big fan of those types of things. Inshallah, look, I will admit this, mashallah. As Muslim communities and as Muslim leadership, we have not done enough to make it easy for our brothers and sisters. As parents, we have made halal so hard and haram so easy. Okay? But that doesn't give you an excuse to go and commit zina or do these types of things. So inquire about internal qualities first, then try to find out the other things, then you don't have to lower your gaze with that particular person. You can try to see if that person is satisfactory in that, to you in that regard.
Just to add to that, I've only been an imam for a short time, but I've had a number of marital problems come to my office. More than I would have expected in 2 or 3 months. And I can tell you that every single one of those problems has been because the brother and the sister that were involved did not take the proper steps in finding their spouse. They found them online, they found them through an uncle or an aunt or some far-off relative, or through a friend, or through Facebook, or through something like that. They did not have a representative go and find out what they really needed to know about that person. And everybody talks, oh, the sisters, you have to have a wedding. I'm telling you, the brothers in America, you have to have a wedding as well. If you come to my masjid and you ask me to perform a marriage for you, I will not perform that marriage until you've gone through premarital counseling, and you have another representative from your family vouch for not only you, but for having done the homework about your spouse. Because all of the problems that I've seen so far, and that I speak to other friends of mine, such as Sheikh Isa Parada in Houston, and Abdullah Udor, these are 2 very good friends of mine out in Texas, that deal with a lot of these issues as well. When I speak to them about this issue, it almost always comes back to the fact that the husband and the wife did not go through the Islamic channels to protect themselves when they're looking for a spouse. You know, we can't have Las Vegas masjid where you just pop in and, hey, give me the marriage license and we gotta go. So don't think that, oh, why is Sheikh Omar here? He's telling us about to go through our brothers and I hate my brother. And he only has dumb friends and I want a cool husband. Whatever. And you can tell about how old I am when I'm talking about it. You can almost always fall into problems when you do not take the proper precautions, when you do not take the proper procedures. But if you take the proper procedures, you'll almost always have to go a little bit farther, but you'll prevent yourself from certain problems that will come up in the future. I think there's a whole bunch of questions up here. So.
I think the administrators are saying that we're going to end here. So what I'd like to do is I just want to walk through the last few questions. They're actually they all connect to each other. It's all single theme. So just hear me out. You'll get a more detailed question answered later. I'm going to read the questions and show you how they're connected. First starts out with, how do you know if you're ready to get married? Then it comes to, my parents are looking for someone, but they're looking for someone only in a specific nationality, and what do I do about that? So how do I know if I'm ready? What do I do if my parents are looking for someone that is only in our nationality or not outside? Now, before that starts, there are 3 questions that connect to, what about Muslims? MSA friends, there's 3 questions like this. MSA guys and girls, or just at your high school that kind of just hang out together. So connect all of this together. Is it okay to text and talk and chit chat and do whatever? I did this as a rule of measure for myself. Would you let your kid do it? My baby girl's not going to be out at 5 o'clock in the morning with chicken guys, 53rd and 6th, eating chicken in New York City, but all of a sudden my kid would be like, oh, can I go do it? I would ask my kid, would you let your kid do it? So would you let your daughter receive text messages at 2 o'clock in the morning from Abdullah? No, answer the question. When are you ready to get married? We said this. If you're asking when you're ready, you're not ready. When you're fulfilling responsibilities on your own, then you're ready. Now connect this to the parents. If your actions are reflecting a respective relationship with your parents, then when you come around and say, Mom and Dad, I really don't think that this is correct, your actions for years are going to speak about this. Does that make sense? Your actions for years are going to say, Mom, Dad, this is what I'm looking for in a spouse, not just all of a sudden. So be responsible proactively. And then there was one very important topic that I just wanted to touch. The MSA, chatting, Facebooking, it's all connected together. If you're truly in love with someone and you can't get them out of your mind and you don't know what to do, love is blind. That's all I'm going to say. If you are madly in love with someone, then that person, I need the sheikhs to weigh in on this. If you're intoxicatedly in love with someone, you're not going to marry that person. You're just infatuated with that person. You really think, friends, really, please, think about it. I'm madly in love with this person. You'd go crazy if you got married to them. You're following them around all the time. No, I'm really, I don't want to joke about this because I get this every city. I'm madly in love, what do I do? Dude, fast a little bit. Think about the problems around. You know what? I have a rule of measure. When I can't answer a major fiqh question, I ask a Palestinian widow. If music is halal or haram, ask her. If I can play Halo from Isha to Fajr, ask the kids at the middle page who have no arms. Ask them if it's halal or haram. Now, there is something I need to make clear. I was specifically asked by my teacher not to answer any fiqh questions if there are more qualified people. I have my opinion on music. It matches Brother Omar, Sheikh Omar. But when the scholars are around, you don't open your mouth. And the people who don't know. So again, I don't want to look like I'm dodging fiqh. There is one though that I want. It is self-pleasure. And I think it's something that's not discussed enough. I want to be blunt and open. This is something that affects males, females, hijabis, Muslims, bearded, kuffar. Self-pleasure is something that Sheikh Salah al-Sawi, one of the most knowledgeable people in fiqh in North America, he talks about it. So you know exactly what I'm talking about. I need you to understand one thing. Again, I'm going to let the ulama take care of the fiqh part of this. If you taste small pieces of chocolate, okay, we talked about drugs, self-pleasure. When you pleasure yourself, you secrete something. If you all need me to go a little bit further, I can. You all know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah. Okay. When you pleasure yourself, you secrete a hormone called dopamine. Dopamine is an actual drug. It's made from the narcotics in crack cocaine. It's dopamine. When you secrete this, your body is going to need more. Now, once you open this door of self-fulfillment, self-pleasure, then you will continue down this path because self-pleasure will then need stimulation.